The products and services list is one of the most powerful tools in QuickBooks. However, it is often one of the most confusing and misunderstood features. You could spend hours learning about many different ways to use items. Instead, we're going to focus on theory, what products and services are and what they do, so that you can fully understand these items and make them work for you and your company. The chapter starts from the point of view of a very small business that only provides a handful of services. They're all similar and they don't need to be separated into separate products and services. Then we'll move into a company that is growing and does need to track different products and services that it sells. Last, we will show you how to add and track the quantity of a product or service sold over time. Throughout this chapter, you'll learn about settings that you can turn on or off depending on your needs. We'll start with the basics and gradually dive deeper in order to help you learn more about QuickBooks products and services and how they affect you and your company.
It's possible that your business doesn't need products or services. So in this video and the next, you'll see what it looks like to record sales without them. First, let's turn products and services off. Select the gear icon, then Account and Settings. Then open the Sales settings. Finally, click Products and Services. There are a lot of options here, and you'll learn all about them over the course of this class. But for now, we're just going to turn products and services off. Then save the changes and confirm the changes. You'll see the sales settings screen many more times during this chapter as you learn about the different options for products and services. The most basic level of business might not need products or services because everything it does to earn money is the same service or product. To see how that works, let's enter a sale without a product or service. Select New, and then Sales Receipt. Enter a customer. And when the transaction happened. Let's put this transaction at the end of the month so that it's easy to find on reports. Notice that the invoice only has a section for description and amount. Since products and services is turned off, all the bookkeeper for this company has to do is click in the description field and type in what they're charging their customer for. Type Design and Implementation of Complex Landscaping Features. This is what the customer sees as their list of charges when they get their invoice. In the Amount field, enter the amount that the customer is being charged. We're charging this customer $500,000. Now this transaction is complete, so select Save and Close. In the next topic, you'll see what effect that transaction has on reports. First, let's go to the Report Center and take a look at the Profit and Loss statement. The transaction we entered earlier was at the end of the month, so we'll change the date range to see it by itself. And then click Run Report. QuickBooks recorded the $500,000 as services income. For many businesses, this is enough because they don't necessarily need to see their income broken up into different categories, especially if they only do one thing. But what if a business does more than provide a single service or product? They'll probably want to track how much money they've made selling one product or service versus another. In the next few topics, you'll learn how to integrate more products and services as the business grows. Or if your business has grown that large already, how to implement them into your existing business.
In the past few topics, we've talked about how to use sales forms and reports without products and services. For many businesses, that may work, but there are a lot of advantages to actually using products and services correctly. The first advantage is when you set up the product or service, you can assign a default description and sales price. Now, whenever you record an invoice and use that product or service, QuickBooks enters the description and the price for you automatically. You can still change these on individual transactions, but you can have consistent descriptions and pricing, and this will save you a lot of time. The second advantage is that products and services are linked to income accounts. And when you record the sale of a product or a service, QuickBooks increases the balance of that income account that it's associated with. This is important because it lets you track different types of revenue based on the different charges you've made to customers. You can then use that data to measure your performance of different products and services over time. The third advantage is the ability to track the quantity and price of what you're selling. Without products and services, you can't track this data within QuickBooks. Next, you'll learn how to turn products and services on, and then record a sale using those products and services.
In the past, this business has only performed basic landscaping services, so there was no need to measure the income of one service against another. Now they're expanding to also offer landscaping design, so the owner wants to see how much they're making from each of their services. First, select the gear icon, and then Account and Settings. Choose the Sales settings, and finally, Products and Services. Turn on the top option and save. Click Done to close the settings. The invoice we entered earlier for $500,000 was actually $250,000 worth of design and $250,000 worth of landscaping services. So let's go back to the transaction and change it. The first big change is that there is now a product service column, in addition to the description and amount columns. To differentiate between the things this business sells, we need to enter what we sold or what are charging the customer for in this column. Click the drop-down arrow to choose between different products and services. We did some design work, so select Design. Notice that the description and amount changes. All this default data comes from the Products and Services list, which you'll see later. QuickBooks stores this default information on that list to help make data entry easier. Even though a default was entered, the description and amount can still be changed. The amount this company charged for design services was $250,000. Since this invoice is being divided into other products and services, click in the next line and add gardening. Notice that the gardening description is different from the description for design. And also, the amount that is filled into the amount field is different. Let's change this to $125,000. And in the third row, click the Empty Product and Service field again. Then choose Tree Trimming. Again, the description and amounts are different, and all of these values are taken from the Products and Services list, which you'll see later. We're charging $125,000 for tree trimming. Notice that the total for the invoice is still $500,000, and it's still on the same date. The only difference is that instead of one line for $500,000, the invoice is divided into 3 different products and services for the same total. Now click Save and Close. In the next topic, you'll see how using products and services have affected this company's reports. Let's look at how the new products and services changed this company's reports. First, select Reports, and then Profit and Loss. Change the date range so that it only includes the date of the invoice. And then click Run Report. Now the income on the report is divided into $250,000 worth of design income and $250,000 worth of services income. So because this company switched to products and services, they're able to see the total, $500,000, divided into 2 revenue streams. There is something unexpected about this report, though. The invoice has 3 products and services, but this report only shows 2 income accounts. That's because design is assigned to the design income account, and both gardening and tree trimming are assigned to services. This is helpful because if each product or service had its own income account, the profit and loss would be too long. But if this company uses the same income account for multiple products and services, how can they tell how much of a product or service they've sold? Open the Sales by Product Service Summary. Change the date range to isolate that one sale. Then select Run Report. On this report, you see more detail. We provided $250,000 worth of design services, $125,000 worth of gardening, and also $125,000 worth of tree trimming. These two different reports show us the same amount of total income, but in different ways. The profit and loss statement is a great tool for seeing your business from a bird's eye view. It lets you see the general income and expense streams of your business. But if you want to see your business in more detail, you need reports like the Products and Services Summary. Both of these reports are useful for a business to make decisions about their services. So how does QuickBooks know that gardening and tree trimming should be combined as landscaping services income and design should be its own separate design income? You find out next. Now you find out where QuickBooks gets all its information for the products and services you sell. Right-click on the second tab and select Duplicate so that there are 3 tabs open. In the third tab, place the cursor over Invoices or Sales, and then select Products and Services. The Products and Services list is where QuickBooks stores information about what your business buys and sells. Notice that next to Design, there is the same sales description you saw when recording the invoice earlier, and also the default price that appeared when we entered Design on the invoice. As for gardening, that same information is listed in its own unique sales description and sales price. Let's edit gardening to see what's going on behind the scenes. QuickBooks opens the Product Service Information page. From here, you see the name and sales information, which is what was automatically entered for the description on the invoice. You also see the default price that appeared on the invoice. Then you see the income account that's affected on the profit and loss, services. There's also an area to indicate whether or not the product or service is taxable, and whether or not this is something the business purchases from vendors. Let's close this service and look at another service. Scroll down to Trimming, then Edit it. This service's income account is the same as the gardening service. This will combine the income on the company's profit and loss statement, so we can still get that bird's eye view of the business on the profit and loss. Remember, if we really want to dig into the details, we have the Sales by Products and Services Summary Report. What if you want to add a new item? Setting up a new product or service is very easy. Click New and choose between Non-Inventory and Service. You'll learn about inventory later. QuickBooks treats services and non-inventory products the same. You'll see the same options during setup for both. The only difference is that on the Products and Services list, you'll see a type column. You can see which items are non-inventory or service in that column. Other than that, there is no difference. But in general, services are services your company provides, and non-inventory items are physical things you sell but don't keep track of your quantity on hand in QuickBooks. Let's open up the service form. Remember, non-inventory is set up the exact same way. Here are all the fields you saw earlier. First, enter the name of the product or service, and then the rest of the information. The only required fields are the name and income account. You can leave the rest blank, but sales description and price help you save time because QuickBooks uses those as the default description and price on sales forms. You can also upload a picture of the product or service with the box at the top right. So now you know how QuickBooks steers the income into different accounts on the profit and loss statement, and why it automatically enters some information on sales forms. Next, you learn about tracking the quantity sold and rate of your products and services. Tracking how much money you've made by product or service is great, but you also might want to know how many hours or units you sold to get to that amount of sales dollars. To get that information, you have to turn on a setting. Click the gear icon, and then Account and Settings. Then, select the Sales settings. In the Products and Services category, you have the option to track quantity and price rate. Turn that on and click Save. Then close the Account and Settings window. Let's take a look at the Sales by Product Service Summary Report again. Now there are columns for quantity and average price, but there's no data. That's because QuickBooks can't run a report about something until you record it somewhere. And the quantity and rate wasn't recorded on the invoice we entered earlier. Click the magnifying glass to open the invoice one more time. Now you can see that the invoice has a quantity and rate column. For the design services, we performed 1,000 hours at $250 an hour. the total amount is still $250,000. But when this invoice is saved, the report will have data on quantity and rate. For gardening, this company is charging for 1,000 hours at $120 an hour. Again, the total remains the same, $125,000. This company performed 500 hours of tree trimming at $250 an hour, which adds up to $125,000. The invoice total amount hasn't changed. It's still $500,000. The only difference is that the invoice now has data for quantity and rate. Click Save and Close. In the next topic, you see how the quantity and rate translates onto reports. Now that the invoice has quantity and rate data, let's take another look at the Sales by Product Service Summary Report. The report displays the quantity of hours and the average price this company charged for the work performed or products sold. Moving over to our profit and loss statement, though, here the report is completely the same because the only change was to add quantity and rate. The actual income amounts are completely unchanged. Use products and services to make entering information on sales forms easier and to track how much money you're making from the sale of those products and services.